Hello and welcome to episode 6 of the Afterglow podcast. Last time we checked out Halo 2, which is one of my favorites, but now we're going to go way, way back to the NES, but if you're listening to this, you've already read the title description. We're checking out Dragon Warrior. This one is a big favorite of mine. It's the game that got me into turn-based role-playing games. So, big fond memories of this one. Now, I'll admit I'm a bigger fan of Final Fantasy these days than Dragon Warrior. That being said, I'm a huge fan of both, and I've spent quite a bit of time, many hours, exploring the lands in multiple Dragon Quest games. And we'll talk about all that after the music cut.
Prepare thyself well, Dragon Warrior. Thy most challenging quest ever awaits. Go with speed, but go with patience. Seek out an arsenal, a dragon scale, a torch, and magic herbs. Use wisdom and cunning to choose thy commands, for the Dragon Lord is a fierce rival. Horrible and treacherous minions all guard the Evil One's island castle. Art thou ready, young one?
Yes, King Lord.
And so begins a new epic, Dragon Warrior.
Nintendo, now you're playing with power.
I love that commercial, by the way. I don't remember seeing that commercial whenever I was a kid. That's something I came across on YouTube. But I really love the commercial for this game. So, as a kid, my introduction to role-playing games as a whole was with Dragon Warrior. And like a lot of people, I got it through Nintendo Power. I believe my grandmother had gotten me a subscription to Nintendo Power, and it came with a copy of Dragon Warrior for free. Now, I assume most of us know the story behind it, where the game did not sell well, so Nintendo decided to turn a negative into a positive by turning it into marketing material, which was really genius if you think about it. But again, role-playing games never caught on for the masses until really somewhat with the Super Nintendo, but more with the PlayStation 1. That being said, that genre got its hooks in me right off the bat with this game. If I remember correctly, it all came in a manila envelope. You got the game, there was an explorer's guide, and then a strategy guide. The explorer's guide kind of gave you tips through a good chunk of the game, to be honest. If I recall, it was at least half. And then the strategy guide actually took you all the way through the game. But I did not have a strategy guide for very long. Now, there's two ways this could have went, and I don't know which one it was, because I was 7 years old at the time. But the way that it could have went was that I could have just lost or misplaced the guide. What I really think happened was that my parents did not want me beating this game right off the bat. And it coming with a book that told you how to beat it, they're like, no, I don't think so. You figure it out. And that's honestly kind of what I think happened. But going back to this is actually my third NES game. Whenever I got my NES, it came with Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt. I got the action set whenever I was younger. And then my parents got me my second game, which was Joust. And then this game was my third game. And I remember putting it in, and keep in mind, I'm going to go back a little bit. After Mario and Joust, which Joust I was already familiar with because my mom's workplace restaurant had the arcade version of Joust in there. This was something completely different. You know, you saw everything from overhead. You could walk around and talk to people, and even that to me was groundbreaking. You didn't talk to people in video games. you did actions, you beat things up, and you went out to beat the game. Like actually communicating was something different, and buying upgrades was something that was kind of unique too. The fact that I could take my character, and instead of finding power ups like a mushroom or a flower, no, you bought armor, you bought weapons with gold that you earned fighting enemies, and I thought that was just mind blowing at the time. It was something that you did not see in that era of gaming. At least I didn't see it. Now, if you were a PC gamer at the time, if you were a little older, you might have experienced it before with like Ultima and whatnot. As a 7-year-old who never had a computer, who started out on the Atari 2600, had just gotten an NES, and was thrown into this huge world, what seemed to me at the time as tons of towns to find and explore. It's not that many now. I think there's like maybe 5 in the game. At the time, it felt revolutionary, though, and to be honest, in my opinion, I think it was revolutionary. But keep in mind, like I said, I was 7 at the time, so I was just learning detailed reading and everything. I really believe this game helped me read. I know a lot of people complain about the old English in the game, but it never bothered me as a kid. I thought it was a cool touch. But I really, really enjoyed it, and my first go around with it, I never beat it. I got to the Dragon Lord. Never could figure out how to beat him. Like, I figured out the thing about, curing yourself before your hit points go too low. I think the first time I got to him, I just went too risky with it. I let my HP get too low. But the second time I got to him, I think my levels might have been too low or something. I just could not beat him. But after that game, I discovered Final Fantasy through a rental, and I kept trying to get that game because it was cool. 4 characters instead of 1. You can fight a bunch of enemies at once. It felt like an upgrade over Dragon Warrior to me. But I did eventually go back to Dragon Warrior a few years later, and this time I grinded like mad through it and beat it. Ignore my phone notification. But I grinded like mad. I think I grinded all the way up to level 30, which, if I think right, is the highest level you can get in this game. And finally beat it. And honestly, I had a blast doing it. Now, I did enjoy this game enough to where I repurchased it on the Game Boy. No, not the Game Boy Advance. I'm sorry, the Game Boy. There is a version that came with both Dragon Warrior 1 and 2, and I replayed it and I rebeat it again on there. And the funny thing about that one, it's so much easier on the Game Boy. Like, it gives you more gold, more experience, but outside of it, it's the exact same game. I mean, it's in black and white, or at least I played it in black and white. I can't remember if it was a Game Boy Color release or not. I don't think it was, but my model was black and white, but yeah, I beat the first game again on there. Really loved it. And eventually I rebought it for Switch. And again, it's like the Game Boy version. It's a lot easier. And of course, beat it again. Finally got for cell phones of all things. And again, beat it again on there. But, I mean, that is really the easy mode, in my opinion, if you're going to go play Dragon Warrior. If you're playing it on anything but the original NES, you're playing it in easy mode, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's more or less the same game. It's the same story, same enemies. That being said, the NES is a lot more grind heavy, which a lot of people these days feel it's a detriment to the game. I'm kind of the other way with it because it feels more what's the word? It feels like you're exploring more whenever it's harder to explore, if that makes any sense. It's so much more difficult to, cross that bridge to the next area. And because the enemies just hit you so much harder, and it takes so much longer to build your levels, to build your strength, to save your gold to buy new equipment, that you get bigger feeling of accomplishment whenever you finally do cross that bridge and you're comfortable in that area. But that is pretty well it for my story of Dragon Warrior. Like I said, I ended up going real deep into the Final Fantasy franchise, but Dragon Warrior is what really got me into RPGs in general. And I have gone back as I got older, and I played Dragon Warrior 2 and 3 as well, but I never played them as a kid. Those I got into as an adult. But I do love the franchise. More of the older games than the newer ones. I have played some of the newer ones. Dragon Quest, I think it was like 12 or 13. It came out in like Xbox and Switch. I played that one. I've played the spin-off one that plays kind of like a third-person game. I can't think of the name of it. It isn't the Heroes. That's it. Dragon Quest Heroes. I played it, and it was a lot of fun too. Again, you can definitely tell it's a spinoff, but it was a lot of fun. But I'm always going to be thankful for that franchise for getting me into the whole Japanese role-playing turn-based game thing. It's something that you don't see anymore. Now, even Final Fantasy has like changed the combat system completely to where it don't feel the same. Like whenever I say I'm a Final Fantasy fan, I'm a fan all the way up through like 10. And after 10, the games kind of fell off a cliff for me, unfortunately. But like I said, really enjoy all those old Final Fantasy games, and it got me into stuff like Chrono Trigger and Lufia and Star Ocean, Mario RPG, Lunar. So many good RPGs, and the roots of me getting into it come from Dragon Warrior. So once again, I thank you for listening to my personal history for Dragon Warrior. We'll see you on the next episode, and enjoy the music outro.